I'm building the world's most expensive twin turbo kit for my 1500 horsepower Silverado. Now, why am I spending all this time and effort building one when I could just buy one? Well, the answer to that is simple, because there is no twin turbo kit out there for a truck like this that'll do exactly what I want, and that's of the quality level that I have come to expect. So, the only option we have is to build our own. And once it's done, it's going to be the best one out there. So we're kind of picking things up here halfway into the project. I've been building charge pipes. We got this one done, kinda. It goes from the intercooler outlet to the throttle body inlet of the engine. So connects from right here, that's the intercooler, to up that way somewhere where the throttle body is. The weld's just cooled down, but it's not complete yet because there's 3 more things we have to add. A pair of blow-off valves and a bung for the IAT sensor. The shape at the end kind of reminds me of one of the little 2-stroke exhaust pipes. The plan is to mount these guys kind of at an angle facing forward, approximately here and here. And the IAT bung here. It's going to be a little bit of a tight fit, just making sure that we have enough room for if, you know, the pipe does move around, these aren't going to hit anything, whether it's the belt or the fan. All right, first thing we're gonna do is actually contour this little flange for the blow-off valve because it doesn't quite fit on the large 4-inch pipe. This is probably designed for something puny like 2-inch. You might find on a Honda, I don't know. So we're gonna start by making a hole that's a little bit undersized. This is the closest hole saw that I have. But we'll just kind of get the middle opened up, and then once this is welded in, then we can do the final kind of grinding or porting of the hole to size. I think this is one of my most valuable welding tools. It's a chunk of metal. It's actually an overload of leaf spring from a Duramax. But it's steel, it's heavy, and it's perfect for, you know, like holding stuff like this in place while we tack weld it. And it also acts as a heat sink to kind of absorb the heat from the aluminum. But I tell you, you learn something new every day. I just picked up some new filler. It's a little bit thicker. It's 3/32. On this particular type of joint, it welds a lot smoother just because I'm only doing itty bitty dabs instead of having to take the thin filler and ram around a whole bunch of it in. So there you go. Lesson of the day. And then we just grab our handy dandy hole opener upper. Open the hole up. Now I generally don't like to brag, but I'm gonna brag right now because, I mean, just look at it. This is a really cool setup, and we're not even done yet. I mean, we've got, I think this angle right here, this is what I think is really neat because we've got the charge pipe coming up, we've got the blow-off valve fitting around the little coolant fill port that we made. And then of course we're gonna have the charge pipes in here. We'll build those in just a minute. We're gonna add our second blow-off valve over on this side. So we gotta look at this for a second and we gotta say, dang, this is a really, really cool project. We're gonna match the angle and have this one sitting right about here. And the only real problem I've discovered as we are building out this one pipe is with the blow-off valves kind of hanging off the side, I just gotta ever so slightly move the upper radiator hose to get this out. You know, in my last video, I showed myself eating a cookie, and then my brother-in-law brought me a whole box of cookies. So this time, I'm gonna show myself drinking a White Monster. This stuff is awful for you. Never ever drink it. Now the other way you can do this, or I've seen people do it I should say, is you weld this on first and then run the whole saw through the middle. But I tried that once and it dug up the inside of this really, really badly. Functionally it still worked fine, but this way it just makes for a cleaner, nicer finished product. So while we wait for that pipe to cool down, I'm just going to swap out this next part here, a passenger side battery tray. I actually ordered this one from eBay. It is a used part. And the reason why I did that is the last one of these I did was a new aftermarket one. It just seemed a little bit flimsy, so went to the junkyard, got a OEM one. It's a tight fit. That's actually really lucky. There is clearance. I get my whole hand in there. But we kind of accidentally shortened this hose to the perfect length. Success! And now we can relocate our battery over here to the passenger side, which is going to give us more room for the charge pipe on the driver's side. And we didn't have to do any custom fabrication, and it looks OEM. Well, because it is OEM. Now we may not be able to get this pipe in and out with both the blow-off valves on it, which isn't a big deal. It's going to be like one bolt per side to get them off. But if we can get it in and out, it'll make life easier. Looks like a shark. Oh, there we go. It's actually easy. When we first got the idea to build this four-wheel drive drag truck, it initially was going to have a twin turbo 535-inch big block under the hood. And we changed plans for a variety of reasons, but just seeing the small block with the twin turbos under the hood and seeing how quickly it's getting filled up kind of makes me glad that we chose the small block route. Now, when we get this thing, maybe I'll miss the big block power someday, but anyway, that's a conversation for another day. We're trucking right along here, and I'm very, very happy with how it's coming out. This is exactly how I imagined it, but we're not done yet. We need to make a connection between the outlet of the turbos and the inlet of the intercooler. So we do have to do some cutting on the headlight bracket, which I don't love, but the way I have it mapped out, I think we'll have to just do minimal cutting. So let's carry on, see if we can make these last few connections. So I think we're gonna get really lucky here. I bought these from, it was CX Racing, I think. 3-inch aluminum little S-bends, and it's going to work out almost perfectly to attach to the turbo and then go around the radiator. I'm just going to cut off the little lump for the hose barb so we can, of course, weld it. Oh, I'm gonna break down my shoes. What would be a fun statistic to know is how many bottles of argon I have used on this truck, start to finish. Suspension, exhaust, chassis, turbo system, like, it's a lot. I mean, not a lot compared to the number of monsters I drink in a week, but a lot compared to something that small. All right, I've been staring at this for probably an hour and I think I got a plan. We're gonna cut more or less that shape out of the headlight bracket. And I think I've been kind of piecing some stuff together. I think we're gonna come out with a 45 or maybe a little bit more, maybe like 60 degrees there. And then we'll have to do like an uphill, and then we'll have to do uphill, downhill, whatever you want to call them. A couple little doohickeys, I think, will work with minimal cutting on that. The good news is if we mess this up, I can probably get these pretty cheap at a junkyard. Try again. So this is our template. All right, we got the first test cut done. I got to open it up just a little bit more, but more or less, this is kind of what we're gonna do. Come on. So, something like that. I just got to open up the outside so it can come to the front just a tad. But so far, all of the structure for the headlamps, the marker lamps, and the grille has all been untouched. All right. The best way I found to get this lined up is, you can see I made a red mark between the two pipes. That's going to sit something like that. But of course I have to clean this up to weld it. So I take my little scribe here. I go right down the center of the red line, scratch for about 1/4 of an inch. Kind of like that. Do the same thing on this side. That way I can still line it up after I clean up the tubes. So this is how many scraps I have made attempting to come up with that, but I think we finally have the answer. So I showed you trimming this guy. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, being that little S-shape pipes that it took to make that happen, but I believe we're in the home stretch now. So just, obviously it's just kind of sitting here under gravity, so I'm gonna start tack welding one at a time, but that's it. I'm really happy with how the fit up is coming. You can kind of see that's what the finished product is gonna look like, but there's no slack in the system. So I'm just gonna trim my 1/8 of an inch off the end of that and 1/8 of an inch out of this metal, or this junction here in the middle. That way each of these clamps has a little bit of flexibility, because right now it's kind of a rigid system and the clamps, they're designed to float. So it's kind of nerve-wracking, but just 1/8 of an inch off the end is all we need. And now everything's cleaned up again, but our mark is still exactly in the same spot. So we should be able to re-weld this back together. Everything will be perfect. So both halves of the driver's side charge pipe are welded up, and we just have to join the two together. I'm just doing a little bit of cleanup with the Scotch-Brite. I really hate how whenever you start my welder, it makes this big old white oxidized spot. So I just take the red Scotch-Brite and kind of clean it up. I think we will powder coat these, but for now I just can't stand looking at that red or the white oxidized spot. Because I have trimmed the bare minimum on the headlight bracket, I have to loosen this up to get the pipe in one piece. We'll try to think of a workaround. Maybe I'll trim it strategically, but for now, we just want to see if it fits. Yeah, we may revisit this. I've got a kind of hypothetical, kind of serious question that I wanted to run by you. I'm curious, if I had a way to duplicate this turbo kit, do you think that there would be any interest in people purchasing it? And number two, at what price point do we think we could sell it for? Because right now, just based on the amount of materials and labor that have gone into this, like it would be, you know, if someone came to the shop and said, hey, can you build me that same kit that you have on your 03? It would be without question the most expensive turbo kit for a Silverado out there. Like it, more expensive than the Armageddon twin turbo stuff, which is really nice. But this has been kind of nuts. So I'm curious what you guys think. I know there's a lot of single turbo kits out there for the Silverados. There's a lot of really budget oriented. There's a couple of really cheap twin turbo kits out there. But anyway, that's kind of curious what you guys would think. Would anybody buy this? And then question number two, color. I want to get your opinion on it because I know I don't really give a crap about painting things and making it shiny, and like it has to do with my personality too. Like I normally want to hide things. I want it to look OEM and unassuming, so somebody walks by and they're like, oh, hey, there's a cool stock Silverado. Wait a minute, it's got a twin turbo kit, but I want it to look OEM. However, on this one, just because of the amount of work that we've put into it, I'm kind of thinking maybe we do something that stands out and has a little bit of pop. I don't want anything stupid like pink or purple or green or anything that's like loud and obnoxious, but I could probably be talked into doing something like a metallic silver, maybe a gunmetal gray, something that just stands out a little bit, just to let you know that, hey, there's something special under the hood. But I don't know, there's also wrinkle black is a pretty cool look to it. And of course, I'm still not sure of the final color of the truck. I love Arrival Blue, so it's probably gonna get painted that at some point, but I also love the silver birch, so who knows? Let me know what you think about color. This is a long project, and we didn't get nearly as much done. Well, that's not entirely true. I got 2/3 of the amount of things done this week that I wanted to. The shop always takes my attention too, but we have the driver's side pipe and we have the center pipe from the intercooler up to the engine complete. So now, just we have one more pipe and then the cold side is done. And then we have the wastegate tubes and the wiring and the injectors. But we're getting closer every single day. So maybe by the end of the summer, which is depressing to say, we'll be driving this turbo kit. But we have cut exactly 0 corners. Okay, here's all the technical questions you have been asking out loud to the screen while you're sitting there watching me spend the millionth week in a row building this turbo kit. Here we go. Charge pipe diameter. We go from 3.5 at the outlet of the intercooler to 4-inch. And I do the transition basically at the water pump. And the reason I did it there is because there's such a tight kind of hook towards the end to get into the engine. I didn't want to have any restriction or loss of flow. It's a 4-inch inlet on the throttle body anyway, so that was a good place to do it. The blow-off valves down there from Summit Racing. We have 2 of them, of course. IAT sensor and bung, we grabbed that from Amazon. For most of the materials, this was a Spectre piece I picked up from Amazon. The rest of it was CX Racing. Their pipe's pretty decent. It has a little bit thicker wall to it. It, for the most part, welds pretty good, so no complaints there. They also have those cool little offset jogs. So like this piece here, I could build without having to weld 2 together, and it looks a little bit cleaner. The Amazon clamps, we talked about those last time. The flexibility of the clamps. That's something that a question did come up in one of the comments on Instagram, which we do post some stuff on Instagram. A guy asked about flexibility and said, hey, you can't hard mount those pipes because you have to allow for the engine to move and things like that. And of course, there's thermal expansion and whatnot. But 2 points to that. Number 1, the engine is mounted in a urethane engine mount, which greatly reduces the amount of rocking back and forth that's going to happen. But number 2, these clamps are actually designed to allow for flexibility. When they're installed properly, there's about a 1/4 inch of gap, or a total allowable gap of a 1/4 inch. So things can move in and out, they can twist. There's about 10 or 15 degrees of freedom of movement that you're allowed. So yeah, even though it is a hard mount, there's still all that flexibility. Of course, no O-rings in there right now, but same thing up here. I mean, the pipes are allowed to move around. So even if the engine does rock and roll a little bit, it's not like they're gonna crack and rip the pipes apart. I don't know if I said it for a while, but goals for this truck. I really wanna run at least a 9 something in the 1/4 mile. Initially my goals were to run 8s. Maybe we'll do that. But then there's the whole safety thing, and I don't really want to run a roll cage. I know I should, but maybe maybe the Z06 will be a faster car than this. I don't know. That's another project that's going to start, fingers crossed, soon. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Drop your questions down below if you have any, and we'll see you next time.